Here's a Baal Shem Tov story. As I said, I know I told the story before, and I don't remember how long ago, but I'll tell it again. There was a Jew, a religious Jew, and he was an extraordinarily talented rabbi, especially in law. And he had big plans. He was going to become a rabbi of a big city, and he had offers, but he had a big problem. That it was he had a daughter that was crazy. His daughter went mad. She went insane for no understandable reason, no logical reason. One day she just went in back of the oven. Every house had like a little stove. She went back of the oven and she just curled up and she just stayed there. And she would grunt once in a while. They had to pull her out in order to wash her. In order to once in a while she would stand up and wander around and wander in the so and she wouldn't accept anybody else to watch her, only her parents, and they fed her. And meanwhile, this wrecked up the man's plans for everything that had planned for in his life. He had to be the present with his daughter. True, he could sit at home and he could learn, and he could go out to pray for a short amount of times. But to be a big rabbi meant that all of his time would have to be devoted to his congregation, which he certainly could not do. He had to devote the majority of his time and attention to his daughter. So they tried to bring different doctors and different psychiatrists, different psychologists, and different this, that, everything, nothing worked. Finally, somebody said, go to the Baal Shem Tov. So this man just heard the name, the Baal Shem Tov, and his whole body just revolted in just like somebody had offered him to eat a dead cat or something. No way. And that the hatred for the Hasidim was so great, it really was based on just on lies and falsehood, but there was one basic truth that it was based on, and that the Hasidim were different. They had certainly a different way of looking at Judaism, a different way of looking at the world, a different goal of what Judaism was supposed to be. And people didn't want that. That was just different. They didn't want to be, anyway, whatever it was, they didn't look too much into who the Baal Shem Tov was or who he did or whatever he did. They just knew he was different, and they heard about it, and the rabbis agreed that it was forbidden. So he didn't want anything to do with it. But here he had a sick daughter, and he heard that the Baal Shem Tov did miracles. And he started hearing that, he started investigating, and nobody really had anything clear against the Hasidim. Exactly things that they did, really 100%, like they heard that this, they heard from somebody that they did this, they heard. Anyway, he had no choice. His wife started badgering him. And so he put his daughter into a carriage and he drove to the Baal Shem Tov. He didn't want to make a big deal of it. So he left in the middle of the night and he arrived at the Baal Shem Tov's place in Mezibush. He arrived early in the morning and he parked his carriage under the window of the Baal Shem Tov. It seems that the Baal Shem Tov was on the second floor, and he went up hoping the Baal Shem Tov was in his room. So he asked one of the Chassidim or one of the helpers, and he said, yes, the Baal Shem Tov is in his room. Is it possible I can see him? He said, just a minute. He went and he came out. Yes, you can see the Baal Shem Tov. Now, this man, he brought a bag of money with him, a bag of golden coins. And he figured that he's going to pay the Baal Shem Tov this money. And then if it doesn't work, so he lost the money, but at least his wife will give him a little bit of quiet. She won't be driving him crazy to do something and watch and take him to the Baal Shem Tov. The name Baal Shem Tov will not be mentioned in his house anymore. As soon as it's made clear that what the Baal Shem Tov is a faker. So we went into the Baal Shem Tov's room and he said, listen, I have a daughter down in the carriage and went mad. She went mad. And she doesn't speak. And she doesn't this. And we have to wash her. She doesn't move. Here's a bag of money. Take the money. Heal my daughter. Do a miracle. I hear you do miracles. Let's see you heal my daughter. So the Baal Shem Tov opened up the bag and he said, I don't need your money. What do I want your money for? He took the bag. He turned around to the window that was behind him and he threw the bag out the window. It had, who knows, $10,000 in it. The man was astounded, threw the money out the window. Anyone could come and get it. All of a sudden, he hears outside, Daddy, Daddy, come quick. Look, there's gold coins in the ground. He runs to the window behind the Baal Shem Tov, looks at, there's his daughter. And she's out there gathering up this money, putting it into a dress. Immediately, the man left the Baal Shem Tov, ran downstairs, started gathering up the money with his daughter, putting it into his hat. Says, let's gather up the money quick and let's get out of here, because the Baal Shem Tov will say that he did the miracle and he's going to want his money back. In other words, the Baal Shem Tov knew that this man would not attribute the miracle to him. And nevertheless, the Baal Shem Tov wanted the girl to be healthy. And he didn't want to take the money. He wanted the man to come on his own to the conclusion that it was the Baal Shem Tov that did the miracle, and even more, to come to the conclusion that it wasn't the Baal Shem Tov that did the miracle, that it was God that did the miracle. But that he did it through holy people. Like Moses. So that's the idea of the Baal Shem Tov, the Moses of the generation, is to heal the generation, heal the Jewish people, and the Jewish people will give all of the credit to God. As it says that when they went over the sea, it says, "Vayaminu b'Hashem of Moshe Avdo," the Jewish people believed in God and in Moses, his servant. See you tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning.